The wait is over. The final of the World Chess Championship 2016 began on Friday in New York City. The world champion, Magnus Carlsen from Norway, plays against Sergei Karjakin from Russia, and over the next 2.5 weeks they'll be playing 12 games. And this time I don't think Carlsen is going to have it so easy. It's the first time that he's facing someone of his own generation in a World Championship match. Karjakin is 26 years old and Carlsen 25, and Karjakin can match Carlsen's stamina. Of course, that's normally one of the Norwegians' great strengths in games, grinding people out in long games, but Karjakin is good at that. He's physically very strong. And let's not forget that Karjakin will have received massive support from the Russian Chess Federation in his preparations. Don't forget, chess is very political in Russia. The Russian Chess Federation has very close ties to the Kremlin, and I'm sure the Russian government would love to see the world title won in New York and brought back to Mother Russia. It's rumoured that Karjakin has had working for him, well, the best players that Russia can offer in his preparations. So, for example, it's rumoured that Vladimir Kramnik has been helping out Karjakin, among others. So Carlsen has to be very careful in his openings, and well, we saw this in the very first game. Carlsen played something of a side variation. He played the Trompovsky, and well, very typical for Carlsen. He likes to avoid his opponent's deep opening preparation. But I think Carlsen could be very satisfied with the outcome of the opening. We joined the game after 26 moves, and Carlsen has a rather typical position for him. He has just a slightly more active position than black, so it's this rook that is very nice, looking in these directions. At the moment, black's king is rather passive and the rook a little bit passive, preventing the rook invading. Also, this knight is a little bit better than the bishop here. Normally, you could say that, well, bishops are often better than knights in endgames, but here, well, that bishop is rather sort of shooting into nothing, whereas that knight has very nice possibilities, beautifully centralised. And white's structure is slightly better than black's. You can see this pawn on h6 is isolated. Can Carlsen make something of this? Well, we've seen him squeeze an advantage and a win out of such positions in the past. Let's see how he got on. Here, I have to say, I would look at a move like g4. And, well, now we can see that white's structure is slightly better. It might be possible to advance these later on, maybe. But of course it trades pawns, so maybe black could say that's slightly to his advantage when he's defending. But instead Carlsen played it slightly differently. f4. Interesting idea. He's perhaps considering playing a knight into e5. Now let me show you a variation where this could come good. Now this is a little bit cooperative. But supposing black starts trading pieces, knight e5, and then black swaps off all these pieces. So they've reached the king pawn endgame. Well, here I think actually white is winning this position. After this, the point is to create a distant pass pawn on the king side. So here, and white gets their first g5, and then the h pawn goes through. But listen, that was a very cooperative variation, as I said. And black certainly doesn't have to play like that. Karjakin played h5, so that prevents white from playing this move g4. And here, actually, Karjakin could have played this move h5 earlier, but refrained from doing so. He's waited till that pawn is on f4 so that white no longer has this move knight f4. So h5 sensible in this position. Now Carlsen starts the squeeze on the other side of the board. I mean, he might come back to the king side, he might go for e4, he might later on, well, there's still this move knight e5 to think of as well. Anyway, the squeeze starts on the queen side, just gaining a little bit of space. Rook d5. Now that prevents this move knight e5, obviously, because now rook and bishop are defending the e5 square. But it now allows knight c5, and this is starting to get a bit tricky. Obviously, if the king crosses to the c file, then it allows a devastating discovered check. And the rook can't return to d7 to cover the b7 pawn, because obviously the rook will be on prise. So black is forced to play the pawn up the board to b6. That creates little weaknesses on either side of the pawn. So Carlsen dives in with the knight to a6. So now this is getting a little bit tricky for black. Who knows where this knight is going to spring to next, and then possibly into c6. So black has to take care. Bishop e7. Now, at first this looks rather mysterious. In fact, it's a good move. Let's have a look. Well, first of all, it discourages knight b4. That presumably would be exchanged off. Knight went into b8, so it wants to spin back to c6, but now a5. Good move from Karjakin, making sure that he doesn't lose any more ground on the queen side, and this a pawn, of course, won't be vulnerable. So the knight came back to c6. Now, exchanging on e7 I don't think really gives white anything. Carlsen kept the knight, so it's a nice central square, but after bishop c5, just cutting out white's rook, really I don't think black has too much to worry about now. So nice defence from Karjakin, and well, he just has to keep his head in this position. He knocked the knight back and then just centralised the king. And well, if he exchanges, then white still has chances to win this position, but there's no need to go in for that. He just kept his king in a central position, and here really, well, white can't make any more progress. And after a couple more moves, they agree to draw. So I think both players can be reasonably happy with this game. Carlsen tried a little bit with white and got the kind of position that he likes, but he certainly didn't risk anything. And Karjakin defended, I think, quite exactly. If he played inaccurately, it could have turned out quite badly. But yeah, good defence. So a steady first game. It's very often what we see in World Championship matches. Please don't expect fireworks all the time. Carlsen said before the start of the match he's going to have to be patient, and I think, well, that applies to both players. So on Saturday, Karjakin will have the white pieces. Let's see if he's going to be very aggressive or he plays in a similar style to Carlsen.